FearFishing Apparel Company. Let me tell you, this is what feeds the FearFishing webcast. If you would like more of this, the FearFishing Apparel Company is the way to make sure it happens. Order some clothing up. The clothing sales are going right back into FearFishing, for we can bring more of this to you. And guess what? Save yourself 10% just by using the code WEBCAST. Boom. Liquid Mayhem, our favorite scent attractant here at FearFishing. They've made it super easy. Go to their website, liquidmayhem.ca. Use the code FearFishing and save yourself 15%. Speaking of Pickering, R&J Tire, your source for awesome truck parts, tires, let me tell you, tires, and everything else you need for your awesome vehicle. Give them a call, stop by in the GTA, and last but not least, our good friends at James Braden Ford. Go in there and tell them Ian West sent you, and they will give you an amazing deal on a brand new F-150. Now, without ado, let's get this started. Whoa! That was quick. We're right in there tonight. Yeah. We're not even messing around.
I'm starting to learn this song.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's not bad,
I was singing along there.
It's a great tune. Howdy, everybody at home. How's it going? I've missed you all. It's been a couple weeks. I feel like we do webcasts every 2 weeks, but I feel like it's 6 months in between them. I get like aching to go and talk to people who can't talk back to me. What are you pointing out? Go ahead, just speak. This is open show.
You okay with that camera angle for the gentleman on the couch?
We can slide that over. Move that camera over there, Mark.
Yeah.
Which way are we going here?
Put it on the table
Put
here.
it on the table.
We want to make sure we get both of your handsome faces. Slide her up there a bit. This is so professional. There we go. Awesome. Well, let's go around the horn first. I'm Ian West. I don't have any amazing opening. I didn't think of one today. To my left, the co-host of this FearFishing webcast. Introduce yourself.
My name's Mark Hunter from Bowmanville, Ontario. Historic Bowmanville, Ontario.
You know what? I felt like we were just on the dating game.
Yeah. I like to take
Remember
long walks on the beach. I love puppies.
What was that game when you were a kid where they had like the three people and they'd be like, hi, my name is Mark Hunter. Hi, my name is Mark Hunter. But one of them was really Mark Hunter?
I don't know.
Shut up, you know.
I do know the show, but
do you know what I'm talking
called.
about?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about? You remember that show? And they had the woman had to ask questions, and then she'd have to guess which one was the real Mark Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sounds awful.
Is it on the History Channel? Is that where it's on?
It might be.
It didn't make it.
It didn't make it?
Nope. No.
On the couch, boys, introduce yourself.
Sean McCall.
That's it?
That's all?
That's
all
it?
you got?
My name is Sean McCall.
That's all you got? Where are you from?
Curtis. Live in Curtis. Good times, Curtis.
Been hanging out that Under Armour outlet you were
like
telling us about?
That's like East Oshawa, isn't it?
Yeah.
East Oshawa, born in East LA?
No. It's Curtis.
East, yeah. It's not tough enough to be Oshawa yet.
Yeah.
It's not Scungy.
There's no rock flags for drapes or
Rock
anything
flags. Jesus.
Is there a creek in Curtis?
Is there a river in Curtis?
Yeah, not really for fishing.
No? Just like a shitting old... Yeah.
So no
Well,
others.
There's probably a hidden creek. Sean's just not willing to tell us. There's one great big pool. Only the locals know.
There's one or two.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Truth's coming out now.
He doesn't want all the steelheader guys and
I know.
What are you doing putting it on the internet?
Motherfuckers.
That's my honey hole.
Son of a bitch.
I got to go back to Curtis, right?
Yeah. Steelheaders are, some of them are mean when it comes to spot.
Oh, yeah.
Very protective.
Yeah. And they're very upset with the internet over the whole thing. If you ask it, what ruined it? The internet ruined steelheading.
Steelheading ruined pictures. Those motherfuckers put the crayons in the backgrounds.
Oh, yeah? I know some bass guys like that, too.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a minute. That pisses me off. Marley, introduce yourself.
My name is Marley Horniak from Roseneath, Ontario.
What else? You're selling your boat.
Sold it, yeah.
What? You
Done.
sold your boat?
Tonight.
He's getting a new one.
What?
Yeah.
Newish one.
Brand new.
No.
No.
Have you,
Brand new.
That's crazy talk.
you picked one out yet, Marley?
No.
He's looking.
I'm going to wait for the proper boat. I'm not doing this again.
We're going to talk about that, and that's how I feel about my deer. I'm waiting for. I probably could have shot about $4 now, all little ones, but they don't feel like my buck. They don't feel like. First off, I'm gonna miss the first one on camera, right? But I want one where I put it on. I gotta live with this thing for the next at least 20 years. I'm hoping to live 20 more.
You gonna allow that in the living room? Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe you asked her that.
It's gonna be like a coat
I
rack
can't
or
even.
something.
Yeah.
You're hanging it in the living room.
And we're gonna get into
John?
mounts too, because your brother's got some stellar mounts,
Yes, he
like
does.
unbelievable.
Yes,
That
he
is
does.
what like. We got to get to Tundra here, but I was thinking for my first year hunting, I'd be happy with any buck, and then I saw your brother's man cave, and I was like, oh no, we need one of these.
You're just gonna miss it anyways.
I know. I've taken a lot of heat over that bear. We're gonna talk about that too. Behind the computer, introduce yourself.
Scott Walton.
Run the FearFishing
Right.
field staff these days too.
Oh yeah.
Double duty.
Freaking
Yeah.
busy man.
Those people love you.
They do.
They do. I don't know what it is either, but
I
they
think-
really.
It's that Campbell soup look, boy.
It might
and
be.
That's what it looks like.
They really like. It's amazing how much he gets done in a day.
It is.
He's taken over the field staff. Frozen Tundra's
And
in
he's
charge.
doing a heck of a job,
He is
too.
doing an amazing
Yeah.
job.
Well done, Scott.
If you're listening to this show and you want on, the field staff or would like to apply, make sure you message Frozen Tundra. You should officially change your Facebook name to that.
No.
Why?
Toyota would get mad. Like you said.
Toyota.
We could use a
Be
good
big
lawsuit.
fight, yeah.
We could use a good lawsuit. What we really need here at FearFishing is a sex tape.
Oh no.
What are you looking at me for? You're not having any of mine.
Oh, shit. Amber is running the IM board to the right. We don't have a camera for her, but she is here. You want to stick your head in there? There's her arm. Okay, let's get into this. Where do you want to start?
Oh, I know where I want to start. Mark.
Yes.
Didn't you have to call CAA?
Yeah,
the
let's
other
do
day?
this.
Let's do this.
geez.
Get
You
ready.
shouldn't have told us.
We
All
need
right.
to do this.
Okay. I was dumb and
Story.
I told them a story just before the show, and here it is. So yesterday I get to work. I do windows and doors, so I have a cargo trailer. I was parked beside a school, so I had to unhook the trailer because I was over the sidewalk. So I came in sideways at the end of the driveway. So the passenger side
You're a good
was
sport.
was closest to the house. So there's all cars parked in front of the driver's side. I couldn't get around there. I got to get the paperwork out of my truck, so I go over to the passenger door. It's locked. I can see my keys sitting. Yeah, on the corner thing. So then I call CAA. They come to unlock my door. And the guy, first thing he says is, "Your driver's window's wide open, sir."
Sir.
So that, sir, yeah. So he called me
Listen
old.
here, fucktard. Your
Yeah,
fucking window's
yeah.
open.
And the worst part is the guy that owns that company for CAA that is a really good buddy of ours through fishing and stuff.
Nice.
So I called him. He says, "Mark, it happens all the time."
So do you
Really?
ever,
Yeah.
you ever
He was
leave a
lying.
house?
Seriously.
He was
That's what
lying for
people have been
sure.
telling me all. You know what? People miss animals all the time, and I am still taking a ton of flack over this.
Sorry, man. Is it mainly from me?
No, I get trolled on the internet now.
Jeez.
Do you
It's all
forget to
good.
put windows in people's houses too?
No.
No? Okay. Just
Never
making
upside
sure.
down. Never sideways. We're all good.
Now, a whole lot like Marley's bass boat. I've seen a ton of I've been deer hunting, sat in the bush. I've seen some okay bucks. Nothing real exciting. But I really think that Marley hit it on the nail. I think there's it's got to be, you have to, like, there's giants and everybody, like, I'm, see anybody sees a giant, you're going to shoot it. But I really feel like your mount should be more characteristic. We should probably start it with.
You're waiting.
Yeah,
for
You
the
could, like,
right
just
one.
get one
Oh,
of the way,
no.
though.
I kind of felt that way too, but I only got one tag for this
'Cause when
year,
you
so if I
started-
shoot, it's over too.
But when you started,
And
it was
then-
just all
and then-
about getting the meat, right?
It is, and
now
I'm
it's like,
excited
okay,
to
now
cook
we need
this.
a trophy.
Do you get like that, Sean?
I don't think I need a trophy. I think I just need, I'll mount a deer that's not that big as long as I'm like, well, I really like that about that deer.
Exactly. You got many different kind of hunters out there. You got guys that are going to hunt for meat. They're going to shoot. If it's brown, knock it down. Whatever comes by them, they're getting it. Right?
Yep.
You got guys that are going to go out there. They're strictly trophy hunters. They want something that's, a 130 class plus.
Yep.
And, then you got guys that are going out. They're just hunters. They're happy with whatever they can get.
Mhm.
Right? See, on our property, we like to practice QAD, QDA, quality deer management, right?
Mhm.
So we selectively choose the deer that we're going to take down.
Yep.
Sometimes there's a big old buck that's maybe just ready to go. We got to make room in the herd for a young up-and-comer to spread his seed, right? We got to keep those genes going, those good genes. So we'll take that deer out, and we've watched our property blossom. We really have.
And I not that there's anything wrong. I just don't feel like I want to shoot some yearling spike buck. Like, as
No.
much as it's going to taste good, and, there's nothing really wrong with it, I'm totally prepared to wait. We may do a webcast right before Christmas, and it could totally change that I'm shooting the next deer I see. I don't care if it's got 40 points or 1. It is going down. Yeah, right. Like, it is going down.
If you're
I'm
looking for
shooting one
meat.
too.
If we're going to shoot one for meat. But right now, I think that, I really, really like just seeing the deer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like I had a doe walk by my tree stand, or my ground blind the other day. And maybe last week, I was out for a couple hours. And I probably could have poked her with my bow out the window.
Nice.
No idea. I got that scent, scent control. You showed me the way. I got locked down. I'm going through bottles of it like crazy. I'm spraying my ground blind. And I noticed, okay, here, I've learned a shitload of hunt just by going and doing stuff.
Mhm.
That stuff is amazing because when you leave, I'm put down apples and corn and my trail cam. And I noticed those buggers were smelling me in the videos. They'd walk by and they'd take a sniff and they'd be like, nope, not eating here. I started spraying that stuff over top of the food, right? No problem, sucking her down. I have a doe who at 9 o'clock in the morning stays there for 2 hours eating on camera.
Nice.
I have a buck, a 6-point buck, like just typical small 6-point. He stays from 3 in the morning till 7:15.
Wow.
Right? And all it took was kind of like spraying it down. I made sure I was using a non-toxic spray, and I checked on the internet, and it said you could do that. Cover whatever you needed. It wouldn't affect them at all. And as soon as I covered up all that, sprayed the camera, sprayed the back of the camera, like the back of the tree, right? Because I totally noticed, they were looking the first 2 weeks, they totally were smelling the camera. Like, it would go off, and they'd be, looking, smelling at the camera. And I was like, they're busting me before I'm even there.
Well, they got noses like no
Unreal.
other. It's
Incredibly smart animals,
yeah, they rely a lot on their nose.
for sure. But I just feel like there's... Anyway, Mark, you're
Yes.
doing the hunting course this weekend.
I am so excited. I am doing it.
And you were, 2 months ago, were not going to hunt.
If you would have told me 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that I was going to be a hunter soon, I thought it was, as far as that goes, this is my last name. I would have never thought. And now,
The real Mark Hunter.
yeah, I'm living up to my namesake. Yeah, I owe it to my ancestors.
But what changed?
Ian, it's your fault.
Why? What'd I do?
We went bear hunting, didn't we?
That was dope, eh?
It was incredible. Incredible.
Me, you, and Sean went up to Swamps and Hardwoods Outfitters at the Ox Narrow Resort, which was beautiful. We spent Thanksgiving with them.
We did, and had a fantastic meal with them as well.
Unbelievable.
We went in and we saw 3 cubs and a sow and 2 male bears, and one of them was a giant
It was huge.
that I shot an arrow over its back.
Yes, you did, but we're not talking about that anymore.
No, we will move on. But the experience.
It was. I have.
It was
due
awesome.
Respect for those animals. Just even if we just saw, like you said, if we only saw that mama
And the
3
cubs?
I tell you something.
It
that
would've been worth the
well
trip.
worth it. Yeah, but it was unreal. I
And-
never realized how cautious those animals were walking through the bush. You figure a top predator, they'd just be going, "Here I am," right?
But they're
not.
They're not
They're
at all.
not.
So here's the deal. We saw there's 2 things I noticed. First off, this whole you can't hear a bear walking is totally true
Yeah, no,
because I've
true.
seen goddamn bears in front of me that I couldn't hear walking, and chipmunks sound
Chipmunks
like
are
the
freight
Civil
train.
War.
A freight train going
Like a
to-
civil Blue Jays versus chipmunks, like it's 1856, and they're fighting her out on a field.
Like those
Unreal.
The thing that I thought was amazing is those bears are in there and the blue jays are coming
Yeah, they don't care.
down and
Chipmunks
the
running
chipmunks
over
are
them.
in and out. It was like
So here's
it was
the
pretty
deal.
cool.
Living in harmony.
Yeah,
Kinda,
They do.
kinda.
And
They
Mark's
do.
got a load in his pants.
The chipmunks and blue jays.
I did. I still do.
The chipmunks and blue jays, they're not so good with each other. There was some scrapping going on.
Well,
So we saw mama bear cubs run off. We look. It probably was like 40 minutes. We never saw anything. I turned my head, and it's not like. I feel like a lot of people have been bear hunting. You would think like you could. It was like a Jaws movie, right? And you'd hear. "Dun-dun-dun." It's nothing. You hear nothing.
no.
Like nothing, and all of a sudden you turn your head and there's like there's a bear. So we watched this about 200-pound male bear come in. He come in a straight line right towards you, but your stand was over the
Yeah, I
canopy
was
and you
higher,
couldn't see.
so I was trying to look through the leaves, and I couldn't. So you could see all those bears, and then a couple minutes after you saw them, bam, they came into my view.
So then I looked, and just as I saw him coming perfectly towards us, on the valley hill, I saw another bear walk between two trees, and then about 2 minutes later, I saw him walk between another two trees, and then I turned back to look at the smaller bear, and he was gone. Right, and I whispered to you at that moment. I said the big one's gone up the hill, and I said this little one's gonna come out the other side of us because he's trying to get downwind of that bait pile because he's worried about this big bear. So 20 minutes later, I turned my head and looked to the left. There he is at 12 yards, the little smaller one, and he is scared shitless. He has got the lip up, trying to funnel air into there, freaking smell. He is basically trembling because he really wants on that bait pile, but he knows that big bear's somewhere. He's probably been chased off there 20 times, and that big bear, he doesn't stand a chance against that big bear.
It was a big bear.
So I watched this little bear, and we could have shot him at 12 yards, no problem, but Mark was on the wrong side of the tree to get any kind of footage of it, so we were waiting. We
Not my
watched
fault.
him move to the left really, really slow. He'd walk maybe 10 feet and stop and smell, and then eventually got on top of a little tiny valley and laid down. And he laid down there until well after dark. As soon as he laid down, we looked up the hill, and down come the big bear. So we watched him probably a good 20 minutes. Came in, laid down. We were running out of shooting time. I had the app out. And I think at one point, just before he stood up, I was like, we have 12 minutes left. If he does not stand up in 12 minutes, we're finished.
And he looked really comfortable down there too, didn't
He did, like
Yeah.
totally. He almost knew, because he would grab a mouthful and then look up at us, and then grab a mouthful. And I don't know if he knew we were there, or he knew something was there.
He knows the stands there.
Yeah, for sure. And there was a newsstand there too.
Yeah.
He may have noticed there's something different.
was different. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So eventually he stood up.
And there's these big bushes
Sitting in
with
there
eyeballs looking at him.
with a camera screen, filming him. He stands up. We miss a shot. The bear has no idea what's happening. He runs maybe 40 feet up the hill, and the first thing Mark says to me is, "Why don't you go get your arrow?"
I wanted to see him again.
So I was like, maybe we'll just have a break.
I'm there for a film, buddy. I'm there for the action.
So we
Go
climbed
get your
down.
arrow, Ian.
We climbed down.
You missed the goddamn thing. Let's get something on film here.
We got the Luminox on, so we go over and get the arrow, and I pull the arrow out, and I look up the hill, and he's about 45 feet away from me, right? And I was like, Mark, I don't think we have to worry about him. It's where did that little one go?
Yeah.
And it's black now, and we got to go walk out of there.
Yeah. He let me go first.
I did. Wow. I knew I was a goner. You're going to outrun me.
Yeah, I had my running Camex on.
Yeah. All right. That 20 minutes whipped by. Okay, let's get our special guest tonight. B1 champion, FLW championship top 10 contender, Ryan Flaro. Bring him on. We're talking big business tonight. So it was crazy, though. Bear hunting is awesome.
That's what hooked me. That's why I
Really?
own a bow now. My wife owns a bow now.
Kid.
My daughter owns a bow now.
It only takes once.
Yeah, exactly. Hello. Yo, what's
There
up,
he is.
brother? How's it going, my man?
Oh, look at the trophy.
Whoa! Look at that. He's bling
Look at
bling.
Marley. That guy has trophies. We should have
Yeah.
some.
And a visor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flaro's a
You
big.
can buy them. You can buy them wherever you want.
That's what we're doing.
How's your night going, my man?
Good, good.
You can hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you straight. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, no problem. Let's get this rolling. You had a hell of a season this year, my man.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster for sure.
The let's throw it back. How did you get into fishing as a kid?
Well, my family's owned a marina here for when I was growing up. They owned it for about 40, 50 years. My family's been in the marina business. So ironically, I was always around boats, motors, cars, stuff like that growing up. So as a child, Saturday and Sunday mornings where I wanted to be out fishing, I was getting the boats ready for customers and stuff at my parents' marina. So it just kind of, as soon as the work was done, we were sneaking out fishing, and that's how everything started. Is just on a little river called the Raisin River in South Lancaster.
Is there fish in the Raisin River?
Yeah, it's actually growing up as a child, it was just infested. Like the springtime of the year, like every smallmouth in the country up in this Lake St. Francis used to go up the Raisin River at one time.
That's
And
crazy.
it was
Nice.
walleye, smallmouth, everything went up there to spawn. So as a kid, we'd be sitting underneath the bridge, catching them, releasing them. So it just kind of funneled from there.
So you've lived your whole life in the Lake St. Francis area.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So now I know you do a whole lot of walleye fishing and guiding,
Yeah.
and that you've been doing that for years.
I've been doing that. Well, after I went to college, I actually went to California and Arizona for a few years, I worked for a high tech company. So me and the city just didn't work out. So ironically, I came home in 2005, and I just said I was sticking around. I want to be able to hunt, fish, enjoy my life. Like I wasn't having fun. The city life definitely wasn't for me. So I just kind of got back into the guiding, took over the clients that they had whenever prior to my family selling the marina and stuff like that, and it just fluctuated from there.
That's awesome. What got you into tournament fishing? And how long have you been at the tournaments, the bass tournaments?
Embarrassing to say, it's my second year, or I shouldn't say, third year in bass tournaments.
Wow.
I was met Scott and got Scott LaFave, my partner, in 2011. I have waterfront houses that I rent, and mostly, a lot of my waterfront clients and fishermen all stay in my waterfront homes. So ironically, I get a call from Scott's wife one day, said, "Hey, listen, there's this series called Renegade," which I had no idea what it was back then because I'm a walleye guy. I had no idea what bass fishing was. And she said, "Yeah, my husband looking for a place to rent for a couple of weeks. He wants to come out and practice." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." I booked him in. This is in the middle of the winter. I down that summer, and he just starts pre-fishing. He'd be coming in saying, "Yeah, is it ever tough this river?" I'm like, "No, this river's easy. There's bass all over." So a couple of years I watched them fish the B1, and I'd be saying, "Go to this spot, go to this spot," and they did okay, but they just weren't, in fierce competition like some of the guys like Jean-Martin Galandry and Nicolas Gendreau and Casey Gramata, they just weren't at that caliber yet. So I said, "Hey guys," every year they'd be coming out, and I'm like, "This is the easiest fish to catch." So I just stopped. And hey, I'm catching things fishing walleye, and you can't catch them. So Scott's the one that really got me into bass fishing, out of all seriousness.
So now you're in your second year of fishing, and you had an amazing year. Run down how the tournaments you did this year on St. Franny.
Okay, it started out with the Cornwall Lunker Club opening weekend. We started out with walleye. I think we weighed in a 24-pound bag. Walleye tournament, 3 fish, your biggest 3 fish.
Wow.
It was. It's ironic because typically, I think I won that tournament. I don't know how many years in a row, and we have some great fishermen. Like there's a couple of great big family names, the Russos and stuff like that in this river. And it's not that one guy is, but there's a lot of luck in fishing. There's a lot of it's a lot of skill, but there's a lot of luck. So we're always within ounces apart. But it just ironically, I think I won it 4 or 5 times in a row. So it started out with the Lunker Club walleye tournament. Then it went on to, unfortunately, I kind of got tired of the walleye. So I started fishing bass more and more this summer. So my neighbor, who's an older senior, he just loves fishing. He has a big construction company, and he just, if he's got 300 employees, but if he could fish every day, he would. So every Saturday and Sunday, it's my job. I got to take this guy fishing.
Nice.
So this is a guy that hasn't fished in, all his life. All of a sudden, he buys a house in the water. He's my next door neighbor. He wants to fish every day. So I'm stuck, making sure he gets fish every Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
So I kind of led off on the walleye tournament and the bass series, because there are a couple tournaments. I'm like, hey, let's register for a tournament. Why not? It's this can't be too hard. Everybody's doing it. It's we're not going to lose a lot of money. It's gonna be fun. Let's just see how the competition is. So we get in. Ironically, I think it was the first one was it was a local was called the Blue Anchor Tournament, and I believe we came second in that one. And it's just like, hey, we're competing with guys like Scott Lucky, Andy Kinsler, big names in this water.
Yeah.
And ironically, we said, hey, there's an FLW series coming to this river. Let's try it.
Oh, we lost the audio here for a second. Oh, we're good. We're good.
You just quit talking.
Yeah, so it kind of just dominoed from there. I used to say all the time, bass fishing's for guys that can't catch walleye. That's all it is. And now everybody's looking at me saying, you're not even walleye fishing anymore. All you're doing is fishing bass. So it's funny because, if I look back 3, 4, 5 years ago, or growing up as a child, I was sitting in my underwear watching guys like Pete Bowen, Angela Viola on TV in their fishing shows. Now I'm sitting in my underwear having beers with the guys. So it's like
you're
it's
in
a
your
total
underwear.
360.
Let's hear that story.
Yeah.
you, Angelo, and Pete in your underwear.
Are you wearing pants right now?
So, we've talked a lot off camera over the since I met you at the FLW event on St. Francis. You put a shitload of work into finding fish. You're not just like somebody who goes out a little bit. You're putting a lot of work into finding fish.
It's ideally, I'd like to say, I'm a weekend warrior. We go out on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we catch fish. When it comes to tournament fishing, it's a whole different breed. If I could just you jump ahead at the major tournaments, like whether it be FLW or the Berkley B1, you're dealing with the premier fishermen in Canada. When you go by the marinas in the morning, and fortunately, it's an unfair statement, but I live on St. Francis. I'm out every day. So when you go by the dock, the week before, or the boat ramps the week before, you see, whether it's, you got guys like Corey and Chris Johnson, they're out putting the time in. Nick Gendro, Jason Gramata, Jean-Martin Landry, Pat Wheelo, they're out putting, these guys are winning tournaments for a reason. And they're putting the time in it. And it's whether they're, everybody has their own different style of pre-fishing. Some guys can go out and practice one day. Ironically, I got the Fish Pro Bass Canada circuit with Charles Sims, and I laughed this year because I say all the time, I don't know how to cast. And, I'm a deep water fisherman. And it's just everybody has their own technique, and everyone has their own style of fishing. And it's just time in the water is a big thing. I believe it. It is. You can hear guys on a tournament and they didn't put any time in. That's great. With technology today, you can probably speed up your practice time. But I think the guys that are putting the time and the effort in the water are the ones that are winning the tournaments.
Okay, now let's talk kind of a not downside, but some people complained before the FLW tournament that you'd been cheating. So the FLW had a boat follow you day one, and you whaled fish in front of them, totally legal. Why do you think people thought that you were cheating? And
it's, I shouldn't say, it's kind of, it's a unique situation. You got a person that's never fished a bass anytime, All of a sudden, I'm fishing with a guy that doesn't fish at all. We go in, we win 2 or 3 tournaments in St. Francis this year. Is there jealousy in the fishing industry? I'm not, and I've talked offline with numerous people, and it's like they say, you win a tournament, everybody automatically thinks you're cheating.
Yep.
Jump ahead to the FLW event. That was, that hit us by storm. It's, I don't know. I don't really talk about it publicly, what happened, but at the end of the day, people accused us and thought that we were fishing. I don't know how, they never explained to us how they thought we were cheating, but they followed us all day. And lo and behold, we did not know there was any camera guys are following us. And ironically, in that event, we had 24 pounds in the boat by 7:45 in the morning. That was at 7 o'clock. And the guys that came out and approached us at the end of the day said, listen, we've been following you guys since blast off, and we watched you catch every fish, and we laughed because we said, whoa, we had no idea what was going on. So was it a perception? I think it's, I haven't been around the bass scene as much time as a lot of the big names in the league. So it's, somebody comes in and, I think there was a lot of speculation because you see what was going on with FLW up west, up around Toronto area.
Yep.
There was a couple of things that went on up there.
Yep.
And I think point blank, FLW is probably the biggest name going right now, next to Bassmasters and stuff like that. So it's, they take this allegation seriously.
Yep.
And they investigated. There was nothing. And I'm proud to say, like the guy said, if you want any of your footage, we could show you where you caught every fish. And we laughed about it. We loved it. It was, that really, it was unfortunate the way we were notified. Day 2, we're told about it. And, giving the hats off to FLW Canada, they're a great bunch of guys and they run a great series. So you know what? If anybody is speculating that people are cheating in the sport, I truly, investigate them, check them out, because you know what? It's at the end of the day, it's a fun. Fishing industry is a tight industry,
Yep.
and it's fun. It's it's a sport, and it's people are out there to enjoy themselves. We're a family all as one. And at the end of the day, people want when there's money involved, greed definitely gets and takes over.
For sure. And I think there's a tremendous amount of jealousy in fishing in Ontario. I think that what happened our way on Top Bass certainly affected how people, because those guys showed up here and nobody had ever heard of them, and all of a sudden they won everything. And, that probably played some into it. But it's really good to, as a role model for people, that the process happened. They saw you catch all those fish, and you don't have to be in fishing for 10 years to be a good angler. I think that's the moral of the story at the end of the day, that we, as soon as we got the chance to meet you the night before at the meeting, and it made sense to us. Well, of course he's going to do well. He's been fishing here his whole life. Why wouldn't he?
And it takes to another. It takes to a it takes to a next level. Take me off San Francis. I'm not going to catch a fish anywhere else. And but I fished with a guy, Kerry Cluncy. We fished FLW Big Rito. First time, I think it was I shouldn't say that. It was about the 4th time I left St. Francis in my life to fish other lakes. We did well there. But again, I'm fishing with a guy that's been on that river all his life. So, it was a match for us. Put me on St. Francis to fish any fish, any species, I'm going to catch them. Whether it be walleye, muskie, pike, bass, I'm going to catch them fish. But I'm like a fish out of water. As soon as you take me to another lake, I'm done. It's I'm kind of getting excited because this coming season, I'm definitely going to wander up. There's some big things happening, whether it be in the Berkley B1 and FLW. There's some big announcements coming up, so it's kind of exciting, and I'm looking forward to traveling and learning other bodies of water. But when you're fishing with these guys that have the experience and spend the time on it, it's tough. It's tough.
And Marley's sitting right here. He got to be the scrutineer for you day 3 of the FLW Championship. And as soon as he got back, he said, those two are the 2 nicest guys in fishing. He had an amazing time with you guys. He can talk. You can hear him.
going on?
Yeah. It's funny because, I'd watched your shows and I'd watched your clips and stuff like that. And when we go out I think it was day 3, Marley got Carrie's boat.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there and I'm like, hey, didn't you just fish this series the day before? What the hell are you doing here? He's like, so,
Yeah, I thought you guys were going to be pissed.
And you know what? I'll tell you, I'll be honest. Whether it was the FLW or Berkley B1 or any of the big tournaments I fished, I've always been fortunate. Taking us up to the Berkley B1 this year, we had scrutineers for both days.
Whoa, we're not there yet. Don't get into the B1. Whoa, slow down, Ryan. Let me throw one more. Let's talk. So this year, after all this happened, you went out and I fished the Berkley B1 twice now. Did we fish it twice?
Twice.
That is a really well tournament and probably, if not the biggest 2-day event in Canada. And it happens on Lake St. Francis. And you won the son of a bitch.
It's, we sit and we talk, and me and Scott still talk daily. And we laugh about it. We say, can't believe we won. We sit here and we're like bridesmaids other years. It's like, how we won. It's like, it's just, I don't know if it's the hype leading up to the Berkley B1. There's something about that tournament that Ben Wu and his team put on that whether it's the hype, the meeting before, or the social media, or just the people that are there. Like I said, when you're fishing against Chris and Corey Johnson, these guys won more boats this year than in their lifetime. They're phenomenal anglers. And it's like, when you see these guys there, it's like, wow, this is the big league. So it's just probably one of the premier events that to be honest with you.
Did you get a ring? Do they still do the ring?
Did they still do the what, sorry?
The ring? Do you still get a ring when you win?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, I don't have mine on. It's something. It's sentimental. It's like awesome. I said, one is, I don't think there'll ever be another tournament other than going down to the States and fishing the FLW series. Cooper and his buddy are going. Kudos to guys like that, because you know what? I know how Cooper Gallant and those guys feel today, because they're going down to fish with the big leagues down in the States. And you know what? We felt like that winning the Berkley B1 this year. It was almost like a fairy tale ending. I've never seen anything so close in my life. And it was just, I think it's just the atmosphere, the people, and the crowd it's just incredible.
It is a great event. We should fish that again now that we got spots.
Hey, Sean, you want to fish the Berkley B1?
We'll just stay away from the $2 beers.
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's it for another webcast, that story. Maybe I have a bet for you. I'm going to do this, and I told them I would.
No.
Yeah.
I know you're a huge Habs fan, which is embarrassing. I'm a big Leafs fan, the diehard.
Which is more embarrassing.
Here's the deal. At the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs final, which if the Habs finish above the Leafs, you can come to my area, and I will take you out on the boat for the day on any lake you would like in our area. If my Maple Leafs finish on top of the Montreal Canadiens, you have to take me out on Lake St. Francis for the day.
Absolutely. And you know what?
That's a real safe
Jumped
bet.
on it.
Think of the money you're saving in gas, Ryan.
I didn't know that. I hope you make a good lunch, because I'm going to be hungry that day. Pack a good lunch. When Marley came, he was our scrutineer that day. That's the first thing I said to him. I said, "So what do you got to eat?" That was the first thing I said.
So not only are you a big fisherman, but you're a hunting guy too. Tell us about hunting. How'd you get into hunting?
Hunting is probably next to fishing. Fishing's my summer passion, but hunting is probably my favorite sport. I own numerous camps, properties. It's been in my family for generations upon generations. I've been fortunate enough, in my life that I've been able to, to afford to do things that, where my dad comes from a family with 11 kids, and, hunting and fishing was just something, my dad tells me stories that when they were growing up, they had to go out in the spring of the year, they were out catching perch on St. Francis to make money and, to feed 11 kids in the family. Yeah. Whereas I get to do it as a pleasure. He had to do it as to feed their families back in the day. So it's like hunting's just part of my heritage. I'm what you call a trophy hunter. So I sit in a tree stand for probably 100 days each fall. So that's my passion. I have more fun sharing pictures of the deer that I'm passing up, or moose that I'm passing up, or turkeys hunting than I do shooting them. So that's my passion.
That we're all, other than Sean, who's our professional bow hunter, we're all just getting into hunting. I just got my license this year. We're bow hunting. Mark's going on Saturday,
Sunday. I'm
to do his
hunter.
hunting course.
Woo!
Scott Walton just got his hunting license all settled up with the M&R. But I totally know how you feel. Hunting's amazing.
It's a rush. I'll give you guys. I just got back, and I'm probably the biggest. I'm not saying I'm secretive, because on social media, I don't post all my pictures, and I shouldn't be ashamed of stuff like that. It's just that it's no secret. I just got back from the Gas Bay, and I literally saw 35 to 40 moose for the 4 days.
Wow.
Every day I seen 10, 12 moose. And it's like passing up, and I sent Ian some pictures of small bulls and stuff I let walk by me and stuff like that. But it's just, I think it's unfortunate. It's like I had the time, I had the my current job, my current my lifestyle. It gives me the time to spend the time, and it's unfair, but it's like I have the time to spend out there hunting these animals and stuff like that, and it's my passion. So for me to see a big bull and actually hunt that animal, or whether it's moose or deer, turkeys or ducks and geese, it's more of the thrill of them. Let's say, me and Ian were talking the other day, and I said, hey, Ian, I let 2 or 3 small bulls go. There what they look like. They were walking by me, and to me, it's like people are saying, why didn't you shoot it? Well, I want a trophy. That's my thing. There's been many years I didn't shoot an animal, or whether it be a big deer or a big moose, and it's my passion, and it's like there's nothing better and more relaxing than after a long week, you get in your tree stand, and you're just at ease, and you're at awe with life, and whether it's just seeing game walk by, or you get a moment to collect your thoughts, and that's what I feel. It's like fishing alone. Everybody, I said to somebody, I'm so used to going out with somebody in the boat. Go out one time and just fish by yourself. It just takes the pressure off. It's more enjoyable sometimes. I'm not saying to do it all the time, but it's just like you get time to, to recognize some stuff and collect your thoughts, and, really appreciate the sport. When you're always with customers in a boat, or if you're pre-fishing for a tournament, it's pressure, pressure, pressure. That's
absolutely.
I agree.
I think people aren't enjoying the sport as much as they really could enjoy that.
And I think the big misconception about hunting is that it's about the killing. And you nailed it like right on the head. When we were just talking, I'm not looking for a gigantic buck, but I've seen a ton of deer this year because I got out lodge. I just haven't seen the buck that I want to take.
Yeah.
Like I totally think that it doesn't have to be a big one. It doesn't have to be. I'll just see a buck, and then that'll be my deer. And it's the same thing. And if I don't get it, I'm really happy just being out there and watching the deer.
I just got back from the Gas Bay, and I was away moose hunting, and my wife says to me, and my daughter say to me, they go, Dad, we could have went to Disney World for what you could. I'm saying, yeah, you're right. And then my wife will say to me, well, honey, steak is only $6 or $7 a pound, but you're buying moose is costing you 15 times that. So, so it's a different lifestyle, and it's taken a complete center stage since I grew up. I was driving by. There's a big protest going on with the local high schools here. I don't know if they're doing it up your way, but they're talking about closing a lot of schools down in our area. And growing up when I was a kid, and I'm not saying kid, I'm 39 years old, but I never wore camouflage clothes to school. It was like It's in my blood. It's in my life. I'm proud of hunting. I'm not against it. And everybody has their own beliefs and thoughts. And when I went to school, if I was to walk out the door and had a camouflage coat on or something like that, my parents would say, get in here and change. You're not doing that. I drove by the high school the other day, and I'm going by the front, and it was lunchtime, and it was like I couldn't believe all the kids that are wearing camouflage clothes now at school. Whether it's it's style or it's that. So I happened to chat with one of my employees. His daughter is just got her hunting license. She said, "You would not believe how many people opening day of deer season aren't in school anymore. Or duck season, or unfortunately, duck season opens on a Saturday now, so you don't get to see it. But it's like deer season opens on that Monday. Half the class is empty because so many youths are getting into the sport again, and it's great to see because with all what's going on in the world, people with the negative in the shootings and the killings and it's always they're blaming the hunters, but it's not the hunters. It's not the hunters' fault that society has gone a little sideways. But ironically, it's taken, like, hunters and fishermen are getting the bad name for it.
Yep.
But incredible the amount of youths that are in the sport, and it's nice to see.
And I will tell you, I have an example of this too. I believe that hunting is a much faster growing sport than fishing is in Canada. I went and bought my duck stamp so that I could shoot my flu arrows at some geese. And I had to go to 4 post office because they're all sold out.
Duck Dynasty.
To get to find my duck stamp. 4 post office in 2 different towns.
It's I don't know what it like when I was going to high school. I remember deer season. There was the same. I went to a small high school. It was probably 300-400 people. Everybody kind of knew everybody's name. And opening day of deer season, or whether it be, there was always a handful of people that weren't there. Now it just seems like the sport's just evolved and gotten bigger. Is it gone kind of underground and more secretive? No, people are talking about it. It's ironic. When I lived down in the States, everybody was proud to carry their guns and had them in their trucks and cars, and they were just sitting out, and Americans are just proud to show their arms.
Yep.
Whereas, I just came back from the Gas Bay, and somebody shoots a moose down there, they're parading around every street with it. It's on the top of the truck, and they're back. People are proud to show their game. Whereas where I'm from, it's like everybody shoots a deer, hide in the box of the truck. You don't show too many people. You just keep kind of quiet.
Oh, do we freeze up there?
Yeah.
Show your friends.
There we go.
The misconception, and people are starting to understand it. Like they're getting more active in the sport, and fishing and hunting will always be popular in Canada, and especially in this area. It'll only get bigger. I just think that the industry is so, it's not monopolized, but it's just so controlled by 3 or 4 of the big factors.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And wow, I can't believe it. That's really good, and that's totally what's going on. The other thing with fishing and hunting is that it brings people together. Like I kind of feel like it's not about you don't need to be a redneck to hunt and fish.
No, and you got guys that are executives and CEOs of big companies, and they're doing it. There was a stats. People don't realize how much hunting and fishing actually generates in revenue. It's ironic. I was just having this conversation the other day with somebody. The tournaments, there were 8 or 9 major fishing tournaments in Lake St. Francis this year. You know what? All these hotels are jam-packed, and you can't get a room in Cornwall during the weeks of the fishing tournament. Whether it be the offset of Tim Hortons selling coffee in the morning or the local gas stations, I think it mind boggles me how the towns, the villages aren't jumping on the bandwagon saying, whether it be FLW coming into town or Renegade or, some of the big names, Top Bass, just in local towns, the money that they're generating for these tournaments and industries is just mind-boggling. And I don't think they really understand the direct and indirect impact they're having on communities. It's ironic that more people aren't jumping on the bandwagon. And it's sad to see because, you look at them and the use, there was a few, you look at guys like Cooper Gallant and These are young guys that are in the sport. They love the sport. It's a thriving industry. And, it's not you don't have to be a rich man to be a hunter and fisherman. It's, hockey now is costing, some families I was talking to, it's costing $6,000, $7,000 just to register them and play in hockey. Whereas fishing, it's, the fishing industry and the hunting industry, you can get out and enjoy the outdoors for minimal effect of that.
And that you don't need the big boat. Here, like, I think that's the big misconception is you show up and you see the bling bling, right?
Yeah.
You don't need that.
You showed up with the brand new Z21, and I'm pulled up with a 18-foot Larson tiller. Everybody was laughing at us in FNLW.
No, I like that
I
boat.
wasn't laughing. I
No,
thought it
we
was
like that boat.
Beautiful boat, man. Beautiful boat.
But it's like, you know what? It's kind of like you can have the best equipment and the best of everything, but not know how to use it. And you know what? It's not so much. It's funny because I was fortunate I got to fish with Charles Sims in the Pro Bass Quebec series this year. So when I first got with him, I jumped in his boat. I'm like, okay, so let's see the secret bait. And Charles looks at me. He's like, what are you talking about? And this guy's been Bassmasters, won all the, he's pretty much won every tournament. Fished their series, in the last 10 or 15 years. And I'm like, okay, let's see the secret baits. What are you using? And he starts laughing at me. He's like, dude, I have no secrets. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And it's like, no. And he goes, it's just a misconception that everybody has a secret bait or, they're doing something different. I think it's time in the water and consistency and just sticking to what you know is the main thing. And whether it be fishing, hunting, or anything.
Exactly. Time in the woods. If you want to shoot a deer, I hear all the time people like, it's so hard to shoot a deer. Well, you only went hunting twice last year. You got to go every day.
And it's funny, Ian, because I remember going back 10, 15 years ago, camera, what the hell's a camera?
Yeah.
Now you can put a camera up in a tree, put it on a trail, and you can pattern them deer. Like, it should be easier today than it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Is it easier? It's like, it's no secret. Pre-fishing, when it comes to it's no fishing. Pre-fishing, I don't even use a rod. I use an underwater camera, and I'm looking for my school of fish, and I'm finding them and marking them. Yep. I'm not out sticking fish like everybody thinks we are. I took my boat to the dealer the other day, and in 2 years, I had 1,700 hours on my motor.
Wow.
So,
that's living the dream.
And he said, and he goes to me, he goes, so that was 900, that was roughly, 800 hours a year. And he said to me, the weird thing is, out of 800 hours, 723 are below 1,000 RPM. And he said, the other 23 hours are above, 3,000 RPM. So he's like, what the hell? What do you do? Just troll all day? And I said, that's all I'm doing. I'm trolling around looking for fish, trying to find the schools. And it's just, everybody says to me, well, every time we go out in the water, your boat's out, your boat's out, your boat's out. I'm fortunate enough, I get home from work in the summer, whether it's I'm out in the water. And, I have more fun investigating and looking and following the fish and just seeing them and looking what's down there. And it is fun to trigger to what they want to bite. But I think it's more exciting, to understand and getting understand what those fish are doing or whether it be a deer or an animal and what their next move is. And that's the exciting thing in the sport.
What do you think it's going to take to grow the sport of fishing here? What are we going to have to change? And I think that the big three companies are going to have to they're going to play a huge role in this because nobody's got power in fishing like those three companies. But other than that, what can we do to grow fishing in Canada? Because I think I've got to speak to you a lot since the FLW, and you are a great guy. And I got to speak to Kerry at the FLW Championship, and Kerry's a great guy. And I think that, you guys had an amazing series, but nobody knows you in Ontario out of the fishing loop, right? Yeah. I think by people meeting you and Kerry, fishing grows. I think at this webcast there'll be some kid who went, holy shit, Ryan Flaro's a great role model for me, and I want to be like Ryan. What is it going to take to get the word out?
It's hard. It's a two-stage question, and I think, like you said, we all know whether it be the big two or three, control the market. And it's just, I think the other thing is too, it's Reno Viola posted it not too long ago, and it's funny if you follow Reno's posts on Facebook and stuff like that. He posted pro staffing in Canada, and it was like everybody wants this and wants that, and it's a misconception that everybody's getting their stuff for free. I don't think we'll ever be like the American market, which is a huge factor. For somebody to get like Brandon Polinick and those Kevin Van Dam. They get stuff thrown at them, to fish in tournaments and try their products. Are we going to see that in Canada? I think it's slowly going to evolve, but I think we as anglers and hunters, we have to educate the people. I don't think the people understand. It's just, I think it's just such a, it's almost like our First Amendment, or the Second Amendment, right to bear arms. Yep. People, we don't talk about guns here in Canada ever. You know what I mean? It's almost like we're embarrassed to. Whereas fishing, people don't realize how big the industry is here. It's in the millions and millions of dollars of money and revenue. But I think we have to, as a society in whole, think outside the box. Like everybody, of course, right off the bat, whether it's be St. Clair fishing rods or Loomis or Ranger boats, everybody's got that sponsor. Everybody,
Yeah.
It's like, I think we got to take it to the next level. Like whether it be, you look at what's indirectly involved with fishing. Well, everybody's looking at lure companies, the tackle, but what about like the companies like OPG, Ontario Power Generation? Think of the detrimental impact they've had on the water.
Yep.
It'd be great for the companies like this to get involved, giving back to the communities, showing what they want to do and how they can, for a number of years, it's no evident. You can go up to Cornwall and you look at these fish coming through the turbines and they're chopping them up. But you know what? It's kind of like, don't say nothing. But I think we have to think outside the box and get these and approach people like this. You know what? Whether it be Domtar or some of the biggest companies, the pollutants. Hey, you guys have been doing this to the environment for a number of years. How about give a little bit back? And it's the second part of the question is, as fishermen with our live release tournaments, the death rate is minimal. So people can complain and say, you know what? St. Francis had 8 tournaments on it this year. It was hard in the river. Well, you know what? We're all catching the same fish, and the same, the fish have hook marks in them. But I think our live release and success rate, thanks to companies like Shimano, who dominate in the live release system, and have educated, like Dr. Bruce Tutts, they've educated the people on how to live release fish, and whether it be there's some great guys like Mark Thorpe, great muskie fisherman. He's constantly showing people on Facebook and how to properly release a muskie. And that's great because people are getting educated. But I think we got to think outside the box and say, listen, some of these bigger guys that aren't directly involved with fishing, I think that's the way we have to go as an industry here in Canada.
If you just look at what everybody put through their bass boat and gas this year, the gas companies could pitch in. I got a bill for $9,000 in gas.
I got over that. With the business, I got over that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a brand new F-150. It's 26,000 kilometers, and I got it in April.
It's not so much. I think it's not so much that everybody's everybody's going after the big names to try and get sponsorships. And I'm sure they're getting tired of it. The margins, I have a good friend of mine that owns one of the largest electronics companies in Canada. And he said to me, he goes, Ryan, if I give away a $1,000 unit, he goes, my margins are 10%. You have to sell $10,000 worth of product for me in order, to get my money back. Are you going to sell $10,000 of product for me? That's a lot of product.
Yep.
So understand like the guys in the industry that have just been, every tackle shop and every jersey and every, they're all getting bombarded, whether it be pro staff. But what is the return for them? That's the biggest thing that people have to understand. What value is your sponsor? Are you bringing your sponsor?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's because there's so many patches on jerseys these days. I didn't mean to cut you off. It's a diluted market. Like I'll tell everybody out there, there's not some secret thing out there where I didn't pay for my bass boat and I didn't pay for my fishing rods. I might have got a deal on my fishing rods because my friend owns the fishing store. We wouldn't have this webcast for you to listen to. There would be no Fear Fishing Unspooled. There would be no Fear Fishing anything if it wasn't for fans of this show buying Fear Fishing apparel. That's
Absolutely.
totally, this is self-funded. There's no secret like backhand deal where somebody's giving
So is
us money.
Is now time for me to hit you up to get a free shirt then? Can I ask for my free
Yeah,
shirt
good
now, or
luck.
should I wait till later?
You and everybody else.
Yeah.
10% off.
Yeah.
Use
Yeah.
the code
Use
webcast.
webcast.
Oh, give me the goddamn shirt, man. I asked for it.
We're gonna make huge changes at the apparel company, and I will make sure I get real man sizes for Ryan.
Yeah. Not girl size, men's size.
Men's size. But that's the thing. I think this is where, if you, I'm not saying that I deserve sponsorships on any kind from anybody, or that, but the fishing companies, I don't know how to say it. Like, we need to invest in the sport as much as I need to invest in the sport. The big fishing companies and the big companies who can help this grow. We can't do anything here without money. I'm just a working guy with a couple microphones on a computer, right? There's not a whole lot you can do. There's nobody to go to help boost things in fishing. Even the tournaments are having a hard time getting money out of anybody to run events.
That's the one thing that that I'm not, and again, I'm not partisan because I'm not, I fished at W this year, I fished Berkley B1, you know what I mean? I fished Renegade Series in the past. And that's one of the things I don't understand why. It's, whether it's these, it seems like they're all competing for people and,
Yep.
like partners, sponsors. And it's like, it's kind of like the guy that's off in the corner doing his own thing, he's happy doing it.
Yeah.
It's ironic. I don't understand why. Hey, why don't two of these guys or three? Let's work more working together. Like Corey Benford, FLW Canada, run a red. He puts his he works his ass and he promotes it. And I don't think people really understand what FLW is. It's huge in the U.S. And it's like, it's mind-boggling that, some of these cities and towns that, where the tournaments are held, like when Chris Jones comes up here this year, that was just awesome. Like that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, it'd be nice to see them working more together and not against one another. I'm a firm believer competition is good. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But, are you eroding the market by, instead of having one tournament with 200 boats, now there's 3 tournaments with 75 boats. So, all they did is erode the market and, these leagues and stuff like that. I know you're never going to have one great big circuit and one great big league, but it's like, it'd be nice to see, some of the old guys and the old timers that fish these older series that, it's almost like military. No, we're stuck in that style. Whereas I see the new young guys, like FLW Canada, they're coming into town and, the younger guys are fishing it, they're getting involved. They're doing more things. And it just seems that you're getting a different generation of fishermen.
Here's the big thing. We have 13.1 million Ontarians. We may have 250 guys who fish tournaments. That's how small this is. And there's so much bullshit going on between these tournament series and in the fishing industry in Ontario that most people who sign up fish for a year and they leave. It's just a fact. You look, if you weren't such a nice guy, let's say I showed up to tournaments. Let's say I lived by Rice Lake my whole life. I went out there on my first year and I laid the smack down. And then the second year I came back and I laid the shit kicking, and those fuckers called me a cheater, I'd have gone nuts. I wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, sweet. Well, you saw I caught the fish. I'd have gone nuts. I'd have wrote the paper, just like I did in Coburg when they tried to kick me out of there for fishing.
I gotta pee.
Go pee. I take this. I got this.
Funny you said that, because you know what? You got to remember this, Ian. Let's go back 3 or 4 months. I pull up with my neighbor in this Larson boat tiller, and here you come walking down the dock with the straight brim hat. I'm like, who's this? 50 cents in the house.
I didn't say anybody like me. I just said that that's what I would have done.
And it's like, you know what? But it's fishing has all kinds of different characters of people. You know, you're gonna have the older guys who just thrive. You know, they've been doing it in the knowledge they've got.
Yeah.
Where you have the younger guys that, you know, they've been able to unlock the secrets quicker. Mm-hmm. Whereas the old guy that's been on the water for all his life, it took him 30 or 40 years to figure it out. But now with technology, younger guys are able to do it faster, quicker, and smarter.
Yes.
So is it evolving? Yes. You know, it's funny because like I said, I grew up watching guys like Pete Bowman and Angelo Viola. You look at their shows from 10 years ago, and then you look at it today, it's just night and day. It's just like, you know, it's funny because I asked them, I said, hey guys, what are you doing showing everybody your spots? You know? And their response are we're here to educate the people.
Yeah.
You know, and like, it's like, I get aggravated sometimes when I'm out fishing in a tournament. You see guys, they pull up and they'll fish right beside you.
Yeah.
And most people would just get upset and, you know, start cursing and swearing. Whereas the way I look at it, where if he can figure out the secret, you know, you might be able to see me somewhere or know I was at this weed bed or was at this rock shoal. But if you can unlock the secret, you know, you might be able to find a spot but catch the fish. That's a whole other game.
Yeah, and totally. And you know, we filmed FLW events, and I don't care. Like, I'll never get people to watch this show if they don't become a fan of fishing, and they're never going to become a fan of fishing if they can't catch a goddamn fish. And that's how I see it. I don't care if you see me out in the lake in the fear fishing boat, you stop and I'll tell you everything I know about the lake. I do not care. As an angler who fishes tournaments, it's my job to find more fish and to help people.
Yeah. I think that's what we have to do. You know, everybody's so secretive. You know what? Here's the other approach in. If St. Francis, I know it like inside out. You'll only come to St. Francis and not come close to winning 2 or 3 times, and then you're going to say, screw it. I'm not going back. I can't beat those guys. But the ironic thing with St. Francis is, you know, it's like, go back 2 or 3 years ago. You know, Jean-Martin Landry and those guys win it one year. Next year, they're down to 10th place. You know, I was first place last year. Hey, next year I could be down to 50th. Like the year before, we could get a total ass kicking. So it's like fishing is lots of skill, lots of time, but you know, there's some luck involved, and that's the thing with the sport. And you know what? It's like you say. I think a lot of people are discouraged about, well, why are we only getting 250 anglers in a tournament? It's mind-boggling.
Not in a tournament. In all together, in all the series, if we add them up, I'll bet you we got 250 guys.
Ryan, I got a question for you. Have you ever had a fellow competitor try to hire you as a guide for that lake?
It's funny. I fished Scott when he first came out here. Scott LaFave. He came out here and he said, hey, listen, when he first rented my place, I'll pay you to take you out. Come on, show me a few spots. And it's like, it's funny because it's taken a complete 360. Scott has shown me more than what I've shown him. I've shown him spots, but he showed me techniques. Hey, I'm an old hook sinker type of guy. That's, you know, everybody thinks I have this great big secret, and it's like I'm throwing this special lure, and I'm setting it or whatever I'm doing. I'm not doing anything fancy, but it's interesting to go. You know, I went out with it's funny because 3 years ago when I first met Nick and Jay, I went out with them I didn't know what a Senko was. And these guys casting Senkos. I'm like, how do you do that? And they said to me, we're right in front of your house. We're going to show you a spot where you catch bass. I drive by it 1,000 times a day, and I never thought there was bass there. And it's just like, everybody has their own techniques, their own approach. And it's just like, you can show somebody and somebody can hire you and take you out. You know, it's like in the guiding. I fish walleye all the time, and I always say, if some of the guys will ask me, do you mind if I take a GPS? Go ahead. Catching the fish is another story. You know, if you're off by 5 or 10 feet or 15 feet, you know, people are with technology today, you can drive by and you can see a guy at this weed edge or that sand point or that sand flat. And it's just, it's evolved along that way. But there's two things. There's actually knowing the spots and knowing how to catch fish. And that's one of the things, like, it's fun to go out and fish with me, like to go out with Ian or, you know, to go out with other people, because my style is so old school that everybody would say that won't work. Whereas I've never adapted to the new technologies. And that's, you know, it's neat. It's fun to learn that stuff.
Oh man, I'll go fish old school with you.
Yeah, me too.
I was
am
totally
old
gonna
school.
ask if you're gonna have a partner for the B1 next year. I'll fish it with you. I'll get in on that.
You know, it's that's another thing. You know, when we were talking about Ian, you see it all the time. When you go to a bass tournament and when you're at the weigh-in, your family's there. There's nothing like Ian. You've been fortunate, like I have. My wife and my kid, my family, they're at the weigh-ins every time, and it's just like it's almost like a family tradition for the weekend south. And you look at it, and just, you know, you're seeing more and more of that. You know, Scott, my partner Scott Lefebvre, and his wife and his child. You know, you're seeing more and more it become a family event, the attendance, and it's like there's nothing better than, you know, when you're going up on stage and you look down, you see your wife, your kid. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to fish. You know, my wife is very, very patient with me.
That was my question.
Get
How do you put 1,700 hours and have a wife and kids? How?
Yeah.
But they're great. I see them at weigh-ins all the time. That's the first thing I noticed, and I totally watch whose families are showing up to watch them weigh in.
Yeah, and there's nothing funnier, Ian, than having that there. And it's like, I think that's part of the fishing culture today. And I think you're slowly going to see that change. Like, there's going to be more. It's more of a family event. You know, if you looked at a couple of the last 2 tournaments, you look at it, you know, the wives are in the crowd, or the daughters are in the crowd, or the sons are in the crowd. And, you know, it's ironic because this year I was supposed to, lo and behold, I was registered to fish the Berkley B1 with my wife.
Ooh.
And for the last 3 years, I fished with Scott.
Ooh.
Before, I never realized that I didn't tell Scott I wasn't fishing with him. I was going to fish with my wife. So she just said, no, go fish with Scott. Next year, you'll fish with me. So I'm going to fish this year in the B1.
I'm going to send her a nice purse in the mail. And I'll be like, with a note inside that says, Ian's fishing with Ryan.
Yeah. So this year, that's my plan. And you know what? I'm looking forward to learning new lakes. Like, you know, it's fun. You know, the family of fishing, like the sport is alive and well. It's going to be nice, you know, whether we go up to Erie or Simcoe or, you know, some of these small lakes like Sturgeon Lake, or, you know what I mean? It's going to be fun to, you know, explore and find new bodies of water and, you know, and evolve. You know what? At the end of the day, it's nice to win a tournament. But, you know, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?
That's right. And I will say that I had a shitty season pretty much all around in tournaments.
Me too.
And going to the cottage with you guys, renting cottages, having the whole family there was the highlight of my season. Meeting guys like you, meeting other people on the road. At the championship, we had a young man, Austin Beasley, and his mom. And Austin is a huge FearFishing fan. He stopped by the cottage, got to spend a couple hours to check out my bass boat and my ride and ask questions about fishing. That's what I remember about 2016. Not how shitty I did. Just, I had a great time no matter what.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's the way you got to think about it. If you're going to, you know, if you're going to make a living from the fishing industry in Canada, I think you're going to starve right now.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yep.
But I think you have to think outside the box, whether it be expand on your, not just focus on fishing and, whether it's outside technologies or other influencing factors. I think that's the key thing for the industry here in Canada. We don't have the population like they do in the U.S.
Nope.
And it's funny because you watch some of the FLW championships or Bassmaster championships, they fill an arena. And it's funny that sometimes we have trouble filling
a parking lot. Yeah.
So it's like, is it changing? You talk to guys like Big Jim McLaughlin who are icons, and David Chong and those guys that are icons in the industry. They were talking about it just not too long ago. I was reading on Jim's Facebook. He said there used to be one series, back in 20, 30 years ago. It was, I think it was the Molson series or something like that, and they were like, but there was lots of people. Now I think there's just maybe, if it's partisan, too many series, and everybody's spread out. So I think that's part of the problem.
And here the other thing is that I knew coming into fear fishing when it became a real business that my goal wasn't only to build fear fishing, but to build fishing as I went. Because I knew it, like, if we look down the line of Big Jim to Izumi to Mercer to JP, they did really well building their brand.
Absolutely.
Maybe not so well building fishing as they went. Like, they did do a lot for fishing, but it's nowhere near what it should be.
You know what? You just touched on it. Like Bob Izumi and Mercer and JP DeRose, those guys have, Big Jim, they did more for fishing than, whether it be Pete and Ange or Reno and those guys, they did more for fishing than any people in their time.
Yes, for sure.
They've learned to get back to the industry. And that's the one thing with these guys. Unfortunately, this is where I have tough and I have prejudice to it. I don't see the new generation giving back. It's ironic because Jim McLaughlin won more tournaments than most guys will ever dream of fishing, but he's won more. And you look at him and he does this thing, the fishing pond, Kids for Fishing and the Ottawa Boat Sportsman Show. He's giving back to the community.
Yep.
That's one of the things I don't see, and it's nice to look like, you look at guys like Bob Izumi and whether Darren, and they're giving back from what they've made a living off this industry, and it's nice to see that these guys are actually giving back to events and promoting it. I just don't see the new generation giving back like these. And that's part of the thing. And whether it's all about dollar and cents for the young guys, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing funner than winning a brand new Ranger bass boat.
Yep.
Love it.
Congrats.
But you don't see it's kind of, I don't know if it's what the greed or it's just the wanting to win, and that's all that matters anymore.
We really need to hit somebody in the mainstream, like what Rogan has done. Joe Rogan podcast has done for hunting in the United States in 3 years. We need somebody to reach the mainstream in fishing to become a popular character in order to and not to grow it with fishing, but to grow the interest in the sport as a story.
Yeah.
We don't have very many people in the sport of fishing in Canada, the United States, who didn't come from money. There's no rags to riches. Izumi did it. But since then, the fishing industry is really driven by money right now. If you're a young kid and you've got, parents who've done really well, you can afford a new bass boat and the entry fees to give this a go. But if you're a poor kid, it's kind of like out of reach right now too.
You're 100% right, because you know what? It's funny. I was just on the phone today. Me and Scott were talking about new boats and new bass boats and stuff like that, and it's like you're almost $100,000 by the time you get it. You know what I mean, for a boat now. It's crazy. So by the time you have your electronics, your boat, your everything set up, it's like, how do people afford it? And it's like, whether pre-fishing and stuff. So it's a costly sport, if you want to play the amateur game.
Yep.
What I feel is happening, I think we're going to see more. I think we're going to see guys picking, where some guys that want to fish 10 tournaments a year, I think you're going to see the guys, you know what, I'm just going to fish Renegade, or I'm going to fish FLW, or I'm going to fish the Berkley B1 series. I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see people not fish the 7 or 8 to 10 tournaments a year and just going to go, you know what, I got to spend time with my wife and kids, or you know what I mean? And I'm going to fish 3 tournaments a year, 4 tournaments a year. I think that's what we're going to see more of. And, at least another interesting point. Like, to me, the week of the Berkley B1 is the best, the funnest. With my waterfront homes, I have all the guys from Nova Scotia, whether the Maritimes, they all rent from me, so they're up. And I get to see these guys, so it's a holiday for us. And we're having fish fries, and we're having drinks, and we're sharing secrets and stuff like that. And it's like, it's a holiday. And it leads back to another tournament I fished last year. And I can tell you, it was probably one of the funnest tournaments I fished, next to none. It was 1,000 Islands Open. And I remember my family came up for the week. And ironically, the location, the girls there in the day, they went and did shopping. They went on boat cruises. We fished. And it wasn't so much that, we came 52nd, I think, in that tournament at 150 anglers. It wasn't the idea that. It was an enjoyable tournament. The location was great, and it was like a holiday to us. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. Guys picking and choosing where they're going, and men and women, and just adapting to that type of
and really dialing in their event. Like,
and
really dialing in your event. If you want to fish, for example, FLW, you might as well take the week off, pre-fish that, rather than trying to run around and fish 3 different series with no pre-fish.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're fortunate enough and you can afford to go fish FLW, Renegade, and the Berkley series, by all means, kudos to you. My hat's off to you. I'd love to be able to do it too. But it's I think you're going to see more guys focusing, maybe not so much fishing. Everybody was kind of all over the map this year. And, of course, everybody has their own favorite lakes and favorite, if there's a tournament on St. Francis, well, I'm sorry to tell you, I'm fishing it. So, but if somebody calls for a tournament up in Big Rito, sorry, guys, I'm not going again.
Well, Ryan, I want to say you're one of the nicest guys in fishing, and I'm so happy that we got to sit with you at the FLW Cornwall event, and I got to meet you. And I really enjoy our conversations on and off the podcast. I need to take a huge piss. So before I let you go, you tell these guys your absolute best fishing or hunting story. You got one?
I'm trying to think.
Okay, you think. You're taking over, Mark.
All right. What we want to hear, Ryan, is your best fishing story.
Hunting story.
Or hunting story. A good one. We've had people shit their pants. We've had people hook their ass. It's got to be a good one.
Oh, I got one. I'm sure my wife's going to watch this after. I'm going to hear the end of this. But I have this. I fish a lot of muskie on St. Francis. And 50-inch muskie, to me, it's not uncommon. So I had a neighbor of mine saying, I said, he'd been fishing muskie all summer. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, they're biting. He told me, he goes, been fishing them all summer. You couldn't catch any. I said, they're biting great. I said, I caught 6 this morning in 4 hours. The guy said to me, you're full of shit. They're not biting. I said, I'll take you out anytime you want to see it. So my wife comes home from work. She says, honey, let's go muskie fishing. I said, yeah, okay, no problem. We have to show our neighbor Joe down the street here that the muskie are biting. He said, I don't want to go in your boat. I just want to watch you catch one. So we go to this spot, and it's ironic. I talked about this spot a dozen times with Pete Bowman and Angelo Viola. I showed them the place, and they've caught fish there. Anyways, we went there. She put her rod down. Bang. She gets a muskie on. Anyways, this fish fighting and fighting and fighting. We weren't there 5 minutes. Anyways, the neighbor's drifting, watching us catch the fish. Anyways, the fish gets up to the boat, and I look at it, I'm like, wow, it's over 55 inches. It's a pretty big fish.
Wow.
I'm just trying to act all modest and say, yeah, see how easy it is? The neighbor pulls up as the fish is still fighting. The fish is going around the boat. Anyways, she tells me to net it, and I'm just kind of telling everybody, look at the fish. Look how big it is. See how easy it is? Anyways, I go to put it in the net. It jumps in the net. I'm talking to the guy in the boat beside me. The fish jumps out of the net, swims away.
No.
So she fish actually in the boat to take a picture, but it was probably one of the largest fish I ever seen caught on St. Branches. It was well over 57, 58 inches.
Wow.
So it's I'll never live that one down as long as I'm alive.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this for us, Ryan. You're, again, one of the greats. If you can find us some snow geese down in your area that we can shoot with our bows, let us know, and we'll come down and film it. That'd be awesome. And I know you know where they are because I seen you selling blinds.
It was a pleasure. Always a pleasure. We'll chat with you later.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Cheers, Ryan.
Thanks.
Bye.
Snow geese with a bow, eh?
Hey, that's what we do here.
Snow geese with a bow.
Bower, hunt, or die.
Let's just shoot something with the bow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it comes
Other than
down
a
to.
target.
Yep. Shut up.
I'd like to see something.
I watched geese hunting on YouTube the other day, and this guy, and he was stalking them in the field. It was dope. He was basically, he would let them land, right? And then he had basically a GoPro, and he'd talk to the GoPro and explain what he was going to do. And he would crawl across the field 60 yards on his hands and knees with his compound bow, and he'd pick like 2 or 3 off with headshots and then spook them off and grab his 2 birds. And he got his limit on 4 days in a row doing it. It was unreal.
Sounds easy. Let's do it.
I don't know if we're allowed to shoot geese while they're on the ground.
Yep,
are we?
totally.
Yeah,
Yep. With a bow, no problem.
with the bow.
With a bow.
No.
You can shoot them on the ground with a gun. It's just the ethics that go along with it. No law against it. We checked it all out.
Yeah.
All there is, it's just an ethics. The hunter was from Ontario. It's on the Eastern Ontario hunting group. It is pretty dope. Throws it down, probably like 40-yard shots, just picking them off. It was actually craziness. We saw another guy in Arkansas who had a recurve bow who was shooting mallard ducks flying down a river.
Wow.
Unreal. Like full tail. He was pecking them off.
Yeah, they're quick.
He was probably
Quick
leading them
birds.
at 20 feet and just hammering them.
Wow.
I can't remember what the name of the
Your
YouTube
flight
video
is
was.
canceled.
Yeah. You watch a lot of YouTube.
I
eh?
do. I watch a shitload of videos. Well, we have to come up for information for the
Yeah.
webcast. Now, we've been killing it.
I know.
YouTube, LubeTube, whatever.
Sean,
whatever
you just got back from Mexico. Tell us about Mexico, man.
Mexico was a good time. I went down there for a wedding. There
Yes?
was over 90 people in the wedding party. We actually we
90
caused,
people went down to Mexico?
yeah.
That's crazy. That's impressive.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
was,
party.
Yeah, it was lights out. It was a good time. We actually we were known because when we got back on with our airline on the way home, the stewardess stood there and said, "Are you guys the wedding party?" We were like, "Yeah." She's like, "We have to have a talk."
Oh no.
Oh,
So yeah, well, the way down, we totally took over the whole plane. We were all up, standing on seats, talking to each other, had the music playing. It was we were drinking. Brought my own whiskey.
nice.
Yeah.
Big whiskey guy.
Yeah.
You were pretty famous at the Ox Narrows resorts for your whiskey drinking too.
I like whiskey.
He's got a nickname called Doubles now.
Yeah.
Doubles.
Doubles.
Yeah.
Double
They
D's.
call him.
Yeah. I had 8 doubles before we left the lounge to get onto the plane.
Jeez.
Now,
Doing well.
Scott, you have an interesting story about your hunting license.
Oh, yes. Yes, it was
And actually
exciting.
how easy it was for you to fix the problem.
Yeah, the M&R was great. What had happened to me is last year, December 31st, I decided that tomorrow I want to go fishing. Well, I was going to renew my fishing license online, which was together the number with my hunting license. So it asked for my license number. So I Type in my license number, doesn't work. Type in my license number, doesn't work. Look at my license, my fishing license. Well, I've had my wife's fishing license. So I couldn't find my fishing license. So I just registered under a new number.
A new name. Basically, he used his.
I used two names.
He used two names. Because
So I used the other name.
the RCMP's looking for him.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Busted.
So then when I went to get my hunting license, they're like, you're not registered in here. So I called the MNR, and she actually fixed it for me and put my two things together. So yeah,
They were very handy.
it was awesome. Yeah,
He said it was very easy.
Which I thought I was gonna have to go read.
Do you think it was too easy?
Yeah,
Bum, bum, bum.
they're coming.
They
for
have
you.
your address, didn't you just move to?
Oh yeah, I just.
Now let's throw down. The Blue Jays got beat out.
Yeah. that
Sean,
was
you're a
sad,
big
eh?
baseball fan.
Yeah, I was pretty upset with that. I got to watch the games Espanol.
Espanol?
Espanol.
See?
How do you feel?
Yeah.
How did you feel about the way the Jays played this year?
Well, they played well this year. They had a great season this year. They were awesome, but their pitching really lacked in the last
yes.
series.
Yeah, but they didn't score any runs either.
Well,
Yeah, but they had chances. They did and those weren't blowout games anyways.
no, they weren't.
You know?
They
We're
weren't
close.
You know, the pitching really lacked.
Now, how we're looking at the World Series. We got the Cubs versus the Indians. Who's everybody got?
I'm an Indians guy through and through.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if this is politically correct, but since I'm a bow hunter now, I think I might go Indians.
Yeah, buddy.
Here's the deal. Here's how I'm
Just a
seeing.
connection
You
there.
just have
you
to
know?
now.
I feel.
But I did see some bear cubs, so
I can't believe you just
I don't
said
care
that.
who wins.
Here's the throwdown. The Cubs haven't won since like 1908.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I want the Cubbies to win this and beat the curse of the GOAT. I like the Indians. I'm not a huge baseball fan.
Even though Kawasaki, didn't he get traded to the Cubs?
What?
I couldn't tell you where he went once he was out of sight, out of mind. But
I kind of feel like
I
we
think
like
he
the
did.
end of. I used to be a huge Red Sox fan. Huge Red Sox fan. Only because I used to tell everybody, basically, if the Red Sox can win the World Series after 83 years, anybody can do anything.
right.
Right?
Except for the Leafs.
If the Cubs somehow pull this off, this will be a momentous moment in sports. The Indians, I think, won last in 1948. So if the Indians win, this is still a huge. But Chicago's had some success with the Bulls and the Hawks. Chicago, Cleveland's got the what is that guy, LeBron? They're not hurting. I kind of feel like I need the Cubs to win. It's like a miracle. This is going to be unreal if they win. If the Indians win, Chris
so
Van
either
Vliet will
way,
be happy.
we were talking before. So either way,
Yeah, here's the interesting
that
part.
puts the Leafs where again?
Well, okay, so basically, if the Cubs lose, they still have the longest streak of professional team without a win.
Yeah.
If the Cubs win, the Indians now become the longest streak without a win. And I couldn't be correct, but I did Wikipedia this. Next comes the Toronto Maple Leafs with the second longest streak. And after that, it becomes the St. Louis Blues, who became an NHL team in 1968. And they've never won a cup.
Wow.
This
And
is
we
no-
still fill the stands.
You know what? I feel like if the
Did
Cubs
Brett Hull ever
win...
get a cup?
Who?
Did Brett Hull ever get a cup?
Yeah, he did in Dallas.
Did he?
Remember when he kicked the
Yeah.
goal in?
Yeah.
No, he was in the crease. Yeah, he was
Oh,
in the
yeah.
crease, yeah. Against the Sabres. I kind of feel like I'm rooting for the Cubs because if the Cubs can win, there's a fucking chance for these Leafs. And then Ryan's got to take me to
That's a
fucking...
huge stretch.
It's bad, eh?
Yeah.
How heartbreaking is it to be a Leafs fan? I'll watch
I don't know, I think you're giving up your waypoints, bud.
Yeah, I totally think I do too.
Yeah, that's a bad bet.
Now,
And you made the bet.
I know. I gotta have...
He's cheering on the young
I
guy.
gotta have, like, faith.
Talk about getting.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Even when I was a younger kid, throughout the 90s, I decided that I hate the Leafs because I was sick of losing, so I became a Vancouver Canucks fan. And then they kind of had those couple good years
Yeah,
where it
yeah.
looked like maybe something would happen. So I'd be in the basement.
Literally 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with my old man. And I'd be like, come on, go Vancouver. But in the back of my head, I was like, come on, Leafs. It is such a disappointment. Like, I feel like it's a huge different disappointment to be a Leafs fan. I can't even imagine what it's like to be a Chicago Cubs fan. Like a diehard Cubs fan.
Is there any?
You were like in 1908. There's probably 1 or 2 people alive who saw that World Series.
There's some pretty good White Sox fans out there. I was at the White Sox game there last year, and there's a lot of White Sox fans.
This is crazy.
They
The
got 2
separated
teams,
town
right?
like that.
Chicago?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same with New York. New York, the Mets and the
Yankees.
Yankees.
Those
I got a
guys.
foul ball at that game.
I got
No way.
You still got it?
Vernon Wells. I went here. You guys want to hear a baseball story? Probably the last J game I went to. My friend Neil Klusterhoff, childhood friend, called me up. He said he had home run section tickets for Toronto versus the San Francisco Giants, and I got to see Barry Bonds play baseball.
Wow.
Let me tell you, that man came out of the dugout for batting
man.
practice, and that guy hit a ground ball past second base and hit 11 home runs, including 2 off the Jumbotron at the Sky Dome, and went and sat down. And my friend Neil Klusterhoff has loved Barry Bonds since the day he became a Pittsburgh Pirate. So he sits down, and Neil is beside himself, right? Barry Bonds gets up, walks to the plate, and hits 14 more home runs in a row. And I saw this. Like, they were nothing. The game goes on. Barry's the DH for the game, right? Hit a home run in, like, the 4th inning. So Bonds hits a fly ball to Vernon Wells. Vernon Wells catches the ball. I believe it was Vernon Wells. Turns around and flips the ball into the outfield, and it touched my fingertips,
No.
and the kid beside me caught it.
Did you punch him out?
No, listen to this. This is a long time ago. After this, I've had about 46 beers at the Sky Dome.
So you punched him out.
On the way out,
Oh, yeah.
on the way out of the Sky Dome, well, maybe we were going for a break, and I walked by, and this kid points and goes, "That's the guy."
So you beat him up on the go
I
train.
ran him. I chased him down. All I remember is, "That's the guy." And I was on the Jumbotron bouncing it off my fingers.
Wow.
Some bitch, eh?
Is that time you've tried sushi for the first time?
It is. And Neil and I spit it into the bullpen.
Jeez.
Like rotten salmon.
You tried sushi at a ball game?
Yeah.
Worst
You
idea.
were the bravest man ever.
Yeah, that's like gas station sushi.
It was
Right there.
terrible.
$37.
We've got so much more to talk about here. Arby's in the United States, what is it, 6 locations,
Yeah, there were 6 locations.
is going to start serving venison.
Arby's.
Venison
Arby's.
or venison?
No, real
Yeah.
deal venison.
In a bag?
In a
No,
bag.
I can't remember what states it was.
Oklahoma, I think, wasn't it?
Is
Oh,
one of
straight
them.
up
On the
roadkill.
On the big deer hunting states, they're going to start serving Arby's. What do you guys think? Deer meat, venison,
Where do they get the deer meat from?
I think they should try to nail down the roast beef first.
the roast bag.
Well,
I think that's kind of
Is it roadkill?
it's time to go home.
Must be one
No,
of
not
your
yet.
fans wanting a question.
it is.
Mark.
It is. They said take your shirt off.
Asking for them sex tapes.
I think it's kind of interesting.
You
that
know what? I'm all about that. Actually, I'm all about getting the game meat out onto the markets and stuff. Get more people.
This would
to
be
try
farmed stuff. I
Yeah,
would
but the
imagine.
problem is where do they
No.
get it from, though?
Yeah, it'd be
Who
farmed.
knows?
it. No, it would be all farms. They have deer farms and stuff out there. Just like
They used to
bison
have one on the
farms.
island, Port Perry. I don't know
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they still do.
Be
Yeah, they do.
Santa's reindeer, Marley.
Yeah.
I went to Marineland one time, the most depressing place in the world.
Oh,
Here's
yeah.
another
St. Louis
fact.
reindeer,
I made a message
awful.
the other day. The state of Ohio is releasing 15,000 pheasants. I think that's the number. Don't quote me on this.
Grab your flues.
Right? You got it. So I posted on the Ian West podcast group fucking thing on on Facebook. We don't have anybody to offend here. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Anyway, a gentleman texted on me and said that in North Oshawa, just north of Taunton Road, they used to in the 80s release between 600 and 800 pheasants a year, and they
I
don't
remember that.
and they don't do that anymore. And then everybody would hunt the fall in basically that area.
When you say who?
You're not allowed to use
The
shotguns
MNR?
out there anymore.
No, yeah, the MNR. Yeah, but the MNR would release the birds, and I guess he called it ditch something burning or something like that, and everybody would go out. I wonder why they don't do this anymore. Like, not in that area. I understand the city's grown since
Yeah.
'88.
Right in Brooklyn.
Yeah, right in Brooklyn. But why don't we have this going on in like the Ganaraska Forest off the 115 or something like that? There's a great industry in raising the birds. That's jobs. Everybody's paying for hunting license. You're going to pay for at least 3 birds here when you buy yours. That's a great idea to get people out, because it is off. In my whole life, and as we talked about before, I do a ton of driving. I've only ever seen 2, which I would say are wild pheasants in all of Ontario. I saw 2 males on the side of the road one time. One at our crappie spot in the spring.
Yep.
Run down the road, and I saw one just east of Port Hope on Lakeshore Road,
Is that where we went further up?
and we saw the male, like a rooster pheasant. Both birds, I don't know, maybe they came from game farms, but you never see them. Partridge is pretty much non-existent around here too.
I had a couple in my yard in the summer.
But they're not like at a sustainable level.
No.
I would
They're
think
not like
that
turkey.
no, I would think that if you had an exceptional spot, you could get your limit. I think if you went out now, you probably got 1 or 2.
Partridge are a pretty sketchy bird. They don't tend to stick around where there's any noise or movement.
Yeah.
Or they're to see them, you're sneaking up on them.
Oh,
in
and
the
they're
bush.
fast.
And they're jamming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're not. They're low on the food chain, right?
Yep.
And they know that.
What do you think? Do you think they should be stalking? I guess that's what they call it, stalking game birds for
I think they've done a real good job bringing back the wild turkey.
unreal.
You know,
They're everywhere
They're
now.
polluted.
Yeah.
I think for the amount of money put into it, I think wild turkey is where it's at,
Yep.
right? I don't think that the pheasant hunt would be as successful as the turkey hunt.
Because they're stupid. Like the coyotes must just roast them. Like the ground birds.
The turkeys?
Well,
Turkeys fly.
turkeys fly, but I kind of feel like and this is just pure off the top of my beer drinking head.
I just thought of Les Nessman when you said that. Turkeys
You know
fly.
what? I would imagine that,
Remember that?
The coyotes, feral cats have probably maybe a little over harvest is totally what's got rid of the pheasant and partridge in southern Ontario in this area. I know in Florida, you should read the statistics on feral cats nuking ground birds.
Sure,
It is unbelievable.
sure.
Okay.
But they're built to hunt.
Yeah, that's right.
what they do
Totally.
all day.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And like a nesting pheasant or partridge has no chance against a cat.
No way.
Well, cat. What did we watched a documentary, and the feral cat is closely related to it. No. I do believe it's a leopard. That's their closest relative, and that's their hunting style. And feral cats do a number on ground birds. I would imagine they do a number on yearling turkeys too, like young birds. It's a huge problem out there.
See, with the turkeys, though, you get them in the flocks, and then they got so many eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And once one turkey goes, they
Yep.
all go.
That's like the Canada geese.
Right.
When you're watching a flock of Canada geese in a field, it's not like half the flock will eat, half the flock has it set up, and then they switch. Half that flock is always looking. That's what makes it so tough about them.
Yeah, they're always looking.
Yeah, and their necks are like swivels. But I think that I totally think that I would like to see upland birds back in a big way. I think that's we're talking about going to a pheasant farm to do some hunting.
Yeah.
I think
that's a really good time if you've never done it.
I think it'll be a great time.
Don't shoot the dog because it'll cost you $15,000.
Don't shoot the dog.
Springer Spaniel mount would be a hell of a thing to take home.
No, they'll rent you a dog there.
Yep,
right? To
yep,
go and
for sure.
flush the birds
I
out.
had my Springer at a pheasant farm for a whole winter. They trained him, and then we went pheasant hunting after he was trained. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You still got that dog?
No.
You shot him?
No, actually, he got really sick. He was only 3, and he got really sick
Oh,
and
that's too
died.
bad.
We actually lost 2 dogs in like within a month.
Oh, that's
Way to bring that up, Mark.
Yeah,
Jeez.
wow. Don't I feel like a
Crying
stick
on
in
the way
foot.
home.
Old yeller.
Asshole.
Yeah.
So what's up next? You're doing your hunting course,
I do my hunting course Saturday and Sunday.
the archery with the family. We should mention
We're having
that
a lot of fun.
everybody, like
Yeah. Since
Amber-
that bear hunt, that
Amber-
really got me hooked.
Joan and Hannah got bows.
They did. They did.
Amber got a bow.
Yes.
My 5-year-old Ashton has a bow. He can hardly shoot it, but he likes to carry it around.
I've actually got a compound bow for him.
He is going to be excited. He is awfully excited about shooting bows.
I don't want
He-
to be anywhere
So
near
am
that
I.
kid
No.
with
He-
a bow.
No, he got, I will tell you that he was actually he's a little bit of a hellion, but he was actually pretty behaved at the bow range. He was actually like he sat in his chair while everybody shot, and then we would go down, and he would hold the bow, and I would help him pull the string, and we'd shoot one arrow, and then he would run over and get his arrow and put it back in his holder at about 7 yards, and then run back and sit in his seat. And I said, Amber, if he did this every time we went here, I can totally see how this outdoor stuff helps young people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievably.
Yeah.
That kid has no patience at all. And he was so excited to shoot his bow. He brought it home. He put it in his room. We explained to him that he could not play with it at home. When his stepsister got home, he explained to her that this wasn't a toy, that it's in my room, but we're not to play with it until Dad says we're gonna go back to the range.
So I got a question for you about that.
Still take the arrows
Who,
away.
Yeah, don't worry. We locked her
how'd
up.
you get all the holes in the walls upstairs?
Yeah,
Was that
exactly.
from you?
Well, I like to shoot during the day too.
Yeah.
Get some practice in. Boys, that was a hell of a show. 9:47.
And Amber.
9:40, an hour and 47 minutes.
Was it?
Ryan killed her.
And I only get to pee once?
He was
Yeah.
on at least for an hour.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the longest ever.
Yeah, he can talk.
He
Yeah,
is
he likes to
well-winded
talk.
young man.
Talk, yeah.
39. He's got a lot of good years in the fishing industry. He is going to pound fish on St. Francis forever.
Big time. He's going to crush him.
Some bitch.
He just got a new boat too, didn't he?
His neighbor bought a brand new Ranger so
Was that his neighbors? Oh,
that
okay. I
Ryan
get
could take
it.
him fishing.
Yeah, I get it.
Must be hard in that tiller life for the old boy.
I think that's a great boat that Ryan has.
That was really cool. We always
Beautiful
really
looking
excited
boat.
to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the real deal deep V tiller walleye boat.
I just remember showing up at the Angers meeting, and then Cloutier had the
Yeah.
tray of Ryan Cokes, and we've sat with the wrong people again.
Because every tournament we go to.
Telltale right there.
Yeah. Why didn't you call me?
I was
Hey,
like,
so
we,
here,
we
you-
are not going to be fishing
Let's
in the
tell
morning.
you our. Should we tell our Berkley B1 story?
Absolutely not.
So we go to the
That was
Berkley
a
B1.
mess.
So we go.
We've been there for 4 days, and then we realized there's a strip joint in the parking lot of the hotel.
It took you 4 days to figure that out.
Believe it or not.
You leave it or not.
Nice pre-fish.
Yeah. We were fishing hard. We caught one fish during those 4 days. So we meet a couple guys at the pre-meeting who seemed like nice family men, top drawer kind of guys. They said, "Do you want to go for a beer?" So we head to the strip joint for a beer. This is what I remember.
This is how any good story.
One of the gentlemen, we got talking about fishing, and we were talking about northern Quebec brook trout fishing. And then the next thing was, would you happen to have any cocaine?
Oh, jeez.
So I was like, no. I got a fish tournament in the morning, and he's like, that's all right. Another 2 rounds of beer. So we're there at like 7:30, and the strippers don't come on till 9. So about every 40 minutes, they throw one up for us.
The problem is that there was like 12 of us, and everybody bought a round of beer. So you're
Yeah.
automatically in for 12 beer.
Yeah. So totally.
Easily.
So here's how it goes. Marley, it got to 9. We finally get a stripper, and they're coming pretty frequently. Marley says to a stripper, "How much for a lap dance for my buddy?" Right? And this is where it went all downhill. She says $10. And Marley says, "Jesus Christ, give him 2." Right?
Give him 2.
So she's a little offended. I go, I get an armful of beer. I head to the back room. And she is like, I'm in there. and we're doing our stripping thing. Right? She's telling me about her kids, how she's trying to get through university.
Yeah, sure she is.
And after about the 11th song, I'm going to marry her. I've decided that, this is the only right thing to do.
Save this girl.
So I come out of the back room. I got her hold of her hand, and she's not wearing a shirt. I explained to the bouncer that we're now in love. And this whole time, I think she's like this Middle Eastern princess, right? And this is the vision I have. She's got the darkest tan ever. And he's like, she can't leave. And I'm like, you son of a bitch, we're getting married right now. You don't understand. Get the hell out of the way. So Marley comes over. The voice of reason, I've had like 147 beers, and he's maybe had 86. And he says, what's going on? So I'm getting married, brother. You want to be the best man? He says, what the fuck are you doing? I said, she's a beautiful Eastern princess. He said, man, she's a bitch who spent too much time in the hooker cooker. He said, if you come with me now, after we fish the B1 in the morning, I'll bring you back and you can marry her. So I left. I never had such a hangover in my whole
I was gonna
life.
say, how was your headache?
Driving that boat in the pouring rain of the Berkley B1.
Oh boy.
I didn't want to fish in the morning.
It was horrible.
I was like, just let me die.
After we left the strip joint, we went for the prime rib roast at the hotel.
And
Wow.
Ian laughed halfway through dinner
Yeah, like had enough. I miss my princess.
and stuffed me with the bill. It was like
Man with a plan.
It was like $150.
Yeah. And he probably snuck out before he had to buy his
No, he
round,
threw
right?
it all up in the room.
Oh.
Oh man.
That was the last time I got really drunk before a fishing tournament.
Is that the tournament you got one fish?
We never even got a fish,
You
man.
didn't get a fish.
We never even saw a fish. We never saw nothing.
So it wasn't the B1, it was the B none.
The bee none.
Yeah, okay. See what I did there?
The only other great drinking story we have other than that is we fished a classic on Ballsack Lake. And
can't
these
tell
are
the
the...
story.
Yeah, we can't totally.
We
I won't
can't.
use names. But we got invited to stay at a college for a weekend. So what do? A couple nice guys. You're going to let us stay at your cottage. We'll bring a couple cases of beer. So this gentleman and his girlfriend and his parents are there. Really nice place. And at about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through the second 2-4, his cousin shows up. And we're all drinking around the fire. And he looks at the person who invited us here and says, you know what? This is really good that you're drinking again. And we were like, what? What are you talking about? And his parents seemed really mad the whole night, right? And it, not like, he's probably like 26, 27 at this time. His parents seemed pissed. And we're like, what the fuck is going on? And his cousin goes, you can tell them. And we're like, what? He's like, oh, he's a recovering alcoholic. And, he had a problem and he dealt with it. And we're like, we are the worst guests ever. We brought fucking 224s to a recovering alcoholics fucking campsite. So, yeah, that was the other douchebag move. Yeah, life on the tournament trail is a tough one.
I guess.
It was pretty funny, though.
It's tamed down a lot now.
Yeah, it is. It's like way tamed down. But we used to only do well in tournaments when we drank a shitload of beer before.
This is true, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I've never done a tournament and had a beer the night before
Really?
or after. I don't drink.
Oh, I guess so.
I can't remember the last time
I haven't drank since I was like in tournament fishing.
Really? I don't drink very much now.
And
2 or
I
3 beers.
and I still don't catch nothing.
We've had some rough goes.
We have had some rough goes, but we've had some great tournaments hungover. Like, not like hungover to the gills, but, just like those mornings when you wake up and you're like, shit, I can't believe it's 6 a.m. or 5:30, and you're like, oh, get in there and get a coffee. And, you're not, maybe that's what helps with the tournaments, not being the no anxiety. Like we just get through the day, and then all of a sudden you just wail the shit out.
There you go.
Maybe we need to, like, instead of what's your best fishing story, the next time we need to do what's your best drinking story. Maybe we need to start that here. Anyways, guys, for everybody watching out there, thank you so much for watching the FearFishing webcast. We've had a great time. Thanks for all you guys to show up. Like always, peace.
Peace.
Good night, all.
Do you know where your children are?